This video is going to be speaking to the choir because I've done a lot of things that I'm going to be talking about today, whether intentionally or unintentionally, and you probably have done too. I'm going to be talking about what if you're not behind but you are rebuilding, and I'm literally going to be very honest in this video about my own experiences with this, so you may want to stick around for that. Alright, so I'm going to talk about comparing your timeline to everybody else's. I know I'm not alone when I say this. We all went to high school together. Some of us went to college together. And when we are finished, we're looking at everybody else's and saying, well, they achieved that, they did that, they achieved that, they accomplished that, blah, blah, blah. And some of it is from a place of, okay, I am happy for them. But if you're being honest, some of it is from a place of, why isn't that me? Why have I not accomplished that, even though I put in the work? And especially for people who you've thought they just did not put in that type of work, and you just thought that you're not thinking that they shouldn't have achieved it, but you're thinking that if they have it, why don't I? And that is a trap that we get caught up in sometimes, that can suck the joy out of your current blessings that you have. Because they have achieved it on a timeline, you think that should have been your timeline. You think that should have been your process. You think that should have been your blessing, your thing, all of the likes. And your feelings are valid. This is not a video that's going to discount your feelings and tell you to suck it up and you should not, think that, because you're entitled to your own thoughts and that's why you have them, right? But comparing yourself to somebody else's timeline just because you think that you're late is not going to get you that momentum or that satisfaction in where you're at right now. It's also not going to motivate you to actually get to the life that you desire. So as I'm thinking about this and just thinking out loud, I want to move on to talking about why rebuilding can look like falling behind. Before going to that though, I do want to say that sometimes a lot of people that we're comparing ourselves to, or that we're wishing we had what they had, they're also wishing they had what we have. They're also comparing ourselves to us. They're also thinking about the fact that they have achieved all the things, but they're not happy, they're not joyful, they are miserable. And we just don't know what's going on in their shoes because we're not in it. It's very easy to think about somebody having an opportunity, even if they say that, they didn't want it, or they're explaining what it feels like to be in their shoes. Sometimes we can get caught up into thinking, man, if I had that, I would have taken a better care of it. But you don't know that you would have taken a better care of it. You also don't know if you would be willing to go through what it took for them to get it, because it's easy for you to look on something from the outside and think one thing versus when you're inside of it. What I thought that I always like to have is to say that only the person who is wearing the shoes knows how tight it's squeezing, because you cannot look on my foot and tell me the type of pain that I'm in. You can look at my foot and tell me that you like my shoes, but you don't know how much it's burning my toes for me to even walk in that shoes. And so this is the perspective that I like to give myself whenever I'm trying to get too far down that rabbit hole of what somebody else has had. Because I have my own experiences where I have had things that people were like, if I had that, I would be happy, or if I had that, I would, do so and so. But yet still, I know that everything that I had to go through to get it, they would not even be willing to go through it to get it. But it's just easy to see it, from the outside and think that it's all sugar candy, right? But sometimes we're in our life and we feel like we're not making progress because we are so deep in it. We are so rooted in the day-to-days. We're not seeing the big picture. We're not seeing anything else but the day-to-day interactions that are either making you happy or sad, or a combination of both. And so it's important to look at these things that are happening in our life to give ourselves perspective on our own life, because there's no point in living your entire life trying to wish you had something that somebody else has had, versus paying attention to what you have and seeing how you can mold it and make it into the experiences that you actually desire. And on the same note, it's easy to feel like you're falling behind when you're comparing yourself to somebody else, because who are you falling behind compared to? You're told that when you're in your 20s, you should achieve certain things. When you're in your 30s, you should achieve certain things. And because we have those internal clocks ticking in our head, if we don't feel like we are at that certain status, if we don't feel like we've achieved those certain things, we feel like we're falling behind. But if you are intentionally trying to create a life and an experience for you that you desire, that you feel content and fulfilled with, there is absolutely no way that you're falling behind. You're actually rebuilding something that you will feel good about when you lay your head on your pillows at night. A majority of the rebuilding process is filled with invisible work that nobody sees. Nobody sees the time when you literally bit your tongue instead of going into an argument with somebody because you promised yourself that you're working on your anger issues. Nobody sees the time where you walked away from a confrontation because you thought the relationship was way more important than a silly argument that you're going to forget in 5 minutes. Nobody sees how you literally try to eat healthy on a budget that you don't even have, or you try to be generous to people who are just backstabbing you, or you still try to be kind to people who have nothing good to say about you. Nobody sees those invisible can I talk? Nobody sees those invisible work, because that's something that you know for yourself that you're building, that you're doing in your own life. And rebuilding your life is not always external. A lot of rebuilding is internal, because we're rebuilding our thoughts, we're rebuilding the way that we express our emotions, the way that we show up, the way that we interact with people. And a lot of those things all start internally. They're not external things that people are always going to see, but it doesn't mean that they don't count. It doesn't mean that you're not important, and it doesn't mean that you're not doing something just because it's not something that's being shown to everybody. Ultimately, this is the main premise of rebuilding your life to a life that you truly desire. It's those invisible work. It's being content with the life that you have, even if nobody else is. See you as ultimately successful. I've talked about, I think in my video last week, the first video I put up in the week, I talked about I don't want a successful life that I hate living. And I thought that success meant that it's just the house and the car and the flashy lifestyle and, never running out of money. And that's a version of success. A version of success that many of us do want. And wanting it does not make you bad or greedy or anything like that. You can want whatever you want for whatever reason, right? Success is also understanding that you want alignment over popularity. It's choosing a life that feels good to you, even if it's not a flashy lifestyle, and even if it is, right? So success is all of those things. But success for you is way more important than general success. And being able to answer that question and identify what it feels like for you is something that takes place in all of those invisible work that nobody really sees. So are you really falling behind, or are you really just in that process of getting yourself to where you actually need to be at the time that you need to be there? I talked about this, my first point, comparing yourself to different people's timeline, but I want to talk about why different timeline does not make you a failure. We've had so many business owners, billionaires, who became billionaires in their 60s, 70s, 50s, 40s, 90s, 80s. Later in life, when I don't know if they've given up, but I'm pretty sure if you're on this quest of wanting to achieve this thing from your child, and you have to wait 60 years to achieve it, you've probably had some doubt along the way and thought that it would not happen, because we all can't see the future, but that's a very long timeline without any without any guarantees. And so it's easy to feel doubt, it's easy to feel like you're a failure, that you're not really getting your life desire. But if you have a goal to become a millionaire by the age of 30 and you achieve it at 50, are you less of a millionaire because you achieved it later? I'm pretty sure it's a no, right? And so somebody else may become a millionaire in their 20s, and you may become a millionaire in your 30s or 40s or 50s. It doesn't mean that you are not successful because you had it on a different timeline. There's so much things that you needed for your journey to be able to sustain that wealth. There's so much different experiences that the person who got to the goal quicker needed to learn. They probably learned it quicker, or they're going to learn it after. Like, everybody is on their own journey, and Having your goals for you and working diligently on them with everything within you is way more important than the timeline that you think you should accomplish something in. You're not a failure if it takes longer, as long as you know that you're doing everything within your power to achieve it. You do not control outcomes, you just control input, and that should be where the main focus is. As we are rebuilding and as I'm getting ready to close this video, I want you to give yourself permission to build differently. That means on the timeline that's yours. We don't control the output. We don't control the outcome. We don't control anything that does not involve you showing up and doing what you need to do to create the life that you want. So giving yourself permission to build differently, to not worry about if people misunderstand you, to not worry about if you fail 10,000 times before you actually get to that success. All of those things, to not worry about the amount of invisible work that you have to put in to become an overnight success, right? Giving yourself permission to feel all the emotions, the guilt, the shame, the disappointment, the misunderstanding, all of it, and still continue on your journey. That is ultimately what it takes to build a life that you feel joyful in, even if it's not popular to everybody else, even if it's not something that everybody's going to clap and want to be your friend for. You feel content with it. You feel like you are at peace with yourself, and you feel like you are living a life that lights you up, and that is ultimately the goal, right? If this video was informative, if anything I said sparked a light in you, lit you up, anything, I would love to know in the comments below. And yeah, I'm rooting for you on your journey, right? Please share this video with anybody who could benefit. Your friend, your family, anybody, it doesn't matter. Share this video, and follow me on all social media platforms at Khrista-Lee Amor. That's Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Please consider subscribing if you have not yet subscribed, and I'll see you in my next video. Let's go make some mistakes. Bye.